Why do so many people have such an aversion to understanding what unconditional love is? Well, I looked at that. And it really comes down to understanding what our first and earliest memory is. You know, if we go back 9 months before we were born, a certain event happened, which unleashed one of the biggest battles in human evolution, in human history, the battle to be here. 400 million to 1, and guess what? You show up. In a battle that was in the dark and uphill. Why did you want to be here so badly? Not only that, but if you look under the microscope and see what actually goes on, it's not just the first person that was there, is it? One of them is actually chosen. Yes, my friends, you were chosen to be here. But the challenge is once we're born, we can't do anything wrong. Yeah, we throw up on mum at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's inconvenient, but we still get love. But something happens round about 18 months old where the parents suddenly realize there's a communication issue, and now it's going 2 ways. And at that moment, a lot of the parents impose their model of the world on how to bring up a child because nobody wants to be a bad parent. But the challenge with that is this, that what we do is we then say if the child behaves in a certain way, we reward that with positive reinforcement, and if they behave in a different way, the perception of the child, regardless of the reality, is that we then withdraw love. And that creates frustration. It creates frustration, but it also creates the perception that love needs to be earned. So by the time we get our earliest memory, at about 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, we've already had almost a lifetime of learning that love is conditional. We have to earn it. We have to behave a certain way in order to be good enough to be worthy of the one thing that we most want. Wow. And we then live the rest of our life projecting that into our lives and our relationships and wonder why nobody can figure out how to download what I call the ultimate app of love. And the challenge there is it fosters the illusion of separateness. Why do I say the illusion of separateness? Because there isn't a physicist on the planet right now that wouldn't argue the fact that every single one of us is connected at a much deeper level than we ever give credit for. It's just that we don't have a reference for unconditional love based on the childhood. I was having a conversation last night at dinner with Dr. Raj, beautiful soul, and there's 2 people that had never met that came together, and we had a wonderful 1-hour connection where what was touched was the stuff that we're made of. Yeah, I saw a guy sharing stories and feeling something that you can't feel when you're left brain. Technology drives us into our left brain. Why? Because it can be measured. That's why we're taught at school left brain principles. Because if I take a math test and I score 75%, you can measure that. How do you measure creativity? How do you measure how much you care about somebody? How do you measure love? And last night, there was 2 people from different backgrounds, different colors, different beliefs, born at different times.